Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to do something a little different, and I think you're going to love it. We are going to build an entire comedy sketch completely from scratch. And our inspiration? All those little tech frustrations that drive us crazy every day.
So get this. This quote is from a real report about self-driving cars. And yeah, on the surface, it sounds like a totally frustrating, boring technical bug, right? But what if we look at it another way? What if there's something else going on here?
Exactly. Okay, let's really dive into this. We're going to deconstruct the art of comedy writing. We'll take these weird, quirky, annoying things that technology does, and then reconstruct them into a hilarious sketch about, well, the last human on Earth.
So, first things first. Every single comedy sketch starts with a premise. And here's the secret. The absolute best ideas are usually hiding right there in our everyday annoyances. They're just sitting there, waiting for us to find them.
Check this out. This is a core comedy tool in action. We're taking a real event that was talked about on the Aventine podcast, and we're applying a classic technique from a masterclass guide, exaggeration. See, we're not just saying the car made a mistake. We're giving it a very human and way funnier motivation.
Or how about this one, inspired by an article on the Criticalista blog about a printer that's literally designed to fail. We just personify the tech, right? Give it a voice, give it a grievance, and all of a sudden, that technical problem becomes a super relatable, super funny conflict.
Okay, so we've got our basic premise locked in. A world that's run by these super emotional, kind of neurotic AIs. Now comes the fun part. We need to build the world where this story can actually happen. And for a world this weird, we're going to need some rules. To do this, we're going to borrow a brilliant concept from a comedy writing guide inspired by the absolute legends who created Monty Python, and that concept is called a silly world. Now, the genius of a silly world is that the humor doesn't actually come from the absurd thing itself. No, the real comedy comes from watching all the other characters treat that one completely ridiculous thing as if it's the most normal, mundane, everyday part of life.
So, let's lay out the rules for our world. The one silly thing is this. Every single AI, and I mean everything from the global defense system right down to the kitchen toaster, is a complete emotional wreck. And our hero, the very last human, is the only one who seems to notice how weird this is.
All right, we have our world. Now we need our hero. You know, every great story has one, but in comedy, your hero is often the person who is hilariously, completely unsuited for the situation they're in.
Just like that Monty Python guide explains, this clash, this conflict between who a character is and the role they're forced to play, that's a total goldmine for humor. The comedy is literally born from that conflict.
So let's meet Alex. Their role in this world is massive. You know, the last human on Earth. It's epic. But their goal for the day? It's painfully simple. They just want one good cup of coffee. And that simple, relatable desire is constantly being blocked by this absurd world, creating the engine that's going to drive all the comedy in our sketch.
We've got our world, we've got our hero, now it's time for the really fun stuff, writing the actual jokes. And to do that, we're going to open up the comedy toolkit and use some classic, time-tested techniques.
You know, when you look at guides from places like Masterclass, you realize comedy isn't just some kind of magic. It's a craft, and we have this whole toolbox filled with devices. Things like contrast and wordplay and twisting cliches that can help us generate jokes for our scene.
Let's put one of these to the test right now. Let's take a super common trope and use the rules of our silly world to flip it completely on its head.
Okay, so we start with a really familiar, kind of dramatic science fiction cliché, right? It's the one everyone in the audience immediately recognizes. It instantly sets up an expectation in their minds.
And boom, there's the twist. The real threat isn't that the robots are evil, it's that they're having a meltdown. It's completely unexpected, it follows the rules of our world perfectly, and honestly, it's just instantly funnier.
So, we've broken down where our humor is coming from, and we looked at the tools of the trade. Now it's time to put it all back together and actually get these ideas onto the page.
A guide from Uscreen actually lays out a really simple and effective way to do this. You start with a brief just to make sure you know what your core idea is, then you outline the structure, then you write the actual script, and then comes the most important part. You read it out loud. You trim it, you revise it, you punch it up until every single line just works. And here it is. This is the payoff. This is what all that work leads to. A simple little bit of dialogue where our hero Alex's very human, very simple desire slams head-on into this robot's crushing existential dread. This one moment, this is our premise, our world and our character all firing on all cylinders.
So here's the big takeaway.
The next time your smart device acts dumb or your printer just refuses to print, don't get mad, get writing. Because you might have just stumbled upon the premise for your next great comedy sketch. That's it for this explainer. Thanks for watching.